After the break in London, the sex offender doctor caught by the Met and allowed to return to hospital wards. Tonight, the sex offender doctor caught by the Met and allowed to return to hospital wards.
I'm really sorry, sir.
It's not me you shocked.
I know.
It was
I'm
these two
really
women.
sorry, ma'am.
Dr. Salman Siddiqui was cautioned in East London 3 years ago, but officers didn't tell his hospital.
They're here to protect the public and to protect children. Someone's not doing that.
The Met is now reviewing its handling of the case. Also ahead, Kevin Spacey tells a court he's a big flirt and touching one of his accusers was meant to be romantic. Station staff protest against the closure of rail ticket offices and up close and majestic with the King and Queen's coronation clothing. Good evening. 3 years ago, Salman Siddiqui was held by onlookers at a park in Tower Hamlets after exposing himself. They then handed him to the police. But tonight, we can reveal the Met failed to tell the NHS or the medical regulator about the incident, despite officers having the power to do so. Siddiqui, a children's doctor, was finally jailed last month for trying to meet someone he thought to be a 14-year-old boy for sex in the grounds of a Kent hospital. With the possibility they missed a chance to help stop a sex offender working in a hospital, the Met has started a review into the actions of its officers. One of Siddiqui's flashing victims tells us she feels failed and that someone needs to be held accountable. Kit Bradshaw has the story.
Apparently he's a doctor as well.
Oh, is he?
So
That's
he's
nice.
more worried about his career than what he's done to upset
isn't that nice?
other people. He's only...
Please, I beg you. I
Take a
beg
seat.
you.
Begging for mercy, Salman Siddiqui, an NHS children's doctor, is held in a citizen's arrest after running naked through a park in East London.
I'm really sorry, sir.
It's not me you shocked.
I know.
It was
I'm
these two
really
women.
sorry, ma'am.
The moment captured by Susan Clapp from Essex, who'd called the police.
I came through the main gates, just there, and just about where the green sign was there was a man standing there with no clothes on, stark, naked, nothing on.
She'd been out walking with a friend that day in the summer of 2019.
He was pleading with me to let him go, please let me go. I actually felt sorry for him because he told the police it was his first time and he wouldn't ever do it again.
What did you expect the police to do that day?
Well, I expected them to take action and it would go to court. But there was no court case. It got brushed under the carpet by the police with just a caution, and he was left to his own devices to go and do whatever he wanted to do.
The actions of the Met Police are now subject to an internal review. Our investigation has pieced together the chain of events that followed. In June 2019, Dr. Salman Siddiqui was arrested and cautioned for flashing in a London park. We now know the Met did not inform the NHS and Siddiqui did not tell the General Medical Council as he was obliged to. In January 21, Siddiqui began work at the QEQM hospital in Margate via a recruitment agency called Pro Medical. 2 months later, Siddiqui finally notified the GMC of his caution, and in October the matter was referred to a medical tribunal. The tribunal took place in July 2022, and he was suspended from medical practice for a month. Following the end of Siddiqui's suspension, he returned to work at East Kent hospitals via the same agency, and was arrested on the 8th of January this year at the QEQM for engaging in sexual communication with a child and for attempting to carry out a child sex offence. He tried to meet someone he believed to be a 14-year-old boy in the middle of the night at his doctor's accommodation. But the person he'd been messaging online was in fact a so-called paedophile hunter who detained Siddiqui until police arrived. Last month, the 44-year-old from Hornchurch admitted all the charges at court and was jailed for 2 years and 4 months. But could he have been stopped sooner?
The Metropolitan Police have clearly made a gross error here in not reporting this doctor to his employer when he was arrested for indecent exposure. Every detective will tell you that indecent exposure is often a gateway crime to more serious sexual offences. He should have been charged and not cautioned. The matter should have been reported to his employer because there was, as the Met Police wording goes, a pressing social need for this matter to be reported.
But there are questions not just for the Met, but for the other public and private bodies involved. None of them would agree to speak to us on camera, including the Essex-based recruitment agency responsible for getting Siddiqui shifts as a locum paediatrician at the QEQM hospital.
I've just been told nobody is available to speak to us here at Pro Medical's head office in Brentwood or answer our very simple questions, which they so far have refused to do so. Did they carry out a criminal record check on Siddiqui before placing him at East Kent hospitals? Did they know about his police caution for exposure? And why did they send him back to work with children after his month-long suspension from practice?
In a statement, Pro Medical told us that they take pre-employment checks, clinical governance and safeguarding of patients very seriously, and that they are working to collectively learn and ensure such actions never happen again. East Kent Hospitals said an internal review did not identify any patient involvement or failures in their processes that would have directly prevented this criminal offence. But they admitted there were missed opportunities to identify Siddiqui's previous caution and that they have taken steps to ensure that it cannot happen again.
How did you feel when you found out that more than 3.5 years after what happened in this park, Siddiqui had been caught trying to meet someone he thought was a 14-year-old boy for sex on the grounds of a hospital?
That wouldn't have happened if the police would have took action from the very beginning. That might have not happened. I'm still in shock, really, and I never really got justice for what happened to me. Someone is not doing their job properly, and they're getting paid to. They're here to protect the public and to protect children. Someone's not doing that.
Please, I beg you. I
Take a
beg
seat.
you.
The General Medical Council says Siddiqui is currently suspended from practising, pending the conclusion of its own investigation. Susan hopes he's banned from ever working as a doctor again. Kit Bradshaw, ITV News.
Next tonight, the Hollywood actor Kevin Spacey has told a jury he's a big flirt in his defence against alleged sexual offences involving 4 men. The 63-year-old insisted he touched one of them in a gentle and romantic way. He denies all charges against him. Carolyn Sim has been hearing his evidence at Southwark Crown Court.
As an actor, he's used to drama, but today Kevin Spacey appeared on a different kind of stage, taking the stand in court to challenge his accusers. The Oscar winner, who's most recently known for his role in the series House of Cards, described his encounters with his alleged 4 victims as relaxed or consensual, and in one case, completely made up. In court, Spacey denied claims he drugged a young actor and performed a sex act on him while he was asleep, saying the pair had shared an intimate moment. He was asked about claims he'd grabbed another alleged victim so hard in the groin while he was driving that he nearly crashed the car. Spacey told the jury their relationship had been respectful and, in his mind, romantic.
It did not happen in a violent, aggressive or painful way, he said. It was not what he described. The lawyer then asked what he thought when he was charged with sexual assault in 2022. He replied, "I was crushed. I never thought the man I knew 20 years ago would stab me in the back."
Spacey had come to London in the early 2000s to revitalise the Old Vic Theatre, the court was told. Describing his time as artistic director there, Spacey said he socialised and worked with big names like Elton John and Dame Judi Dench. When asked how allegations against him had impacted his life, he became emotional, telling the court there was a rush to judgment. And before the first question was asked or answered, "I lost my job, I lost my reputation, I lost everything in a matter of days." The 63-year-old denies all 12 charges against him and will continue his evidence tomorrow. Carolyn Sim, ITV News, Southwark Crown Court.
Striking doctors have rejected the Prime Minister's final offer of a 6% pay rise. Around the capital today, thousands of junior doctors have been picketing outside hospitals in a 5-day strike, their longest walkout yet. Rishi Sunak said earlier there will be no more talks on pay, but the British Medical Association is holding out for pay rises of around 35%.
We will reballot again and again and again and again. We have to come to some sort of an agreement, and if we don't, then the hemorrhaging of doctors out of this profession will continue at a rate that this country cannot sustain. They are aware of what a credible offer looks like. That's all we're asking for. And if Steve Barclay can tell us right now that a junior doctor is worth £20 an hour, we will call off the strikes right now.
Meanwhile, there's a big protest outside King's Cross right now over ticket office closures. The move's been pushed by the government to save costs, but has angered RMT union members and passenger groups. Toby Sadler is outside King's Cross now. Toby, what are staff saying there?
Well, they're really concerned that they could end up losing their jobs, that the rail companies want to get rid of them. This is a protest across London today at various stations, culminating here, as you can see, at King's Cross. It's just getting underway here. We're going to hear from the RMT union and also local politicians, including former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. The idea is, though, that rail companies want to close ticket offices at most of the stations in the capital. That includes some of the big hubs like Paddington, St Pancras and Euston Station. Not TfL at this point, so the Tube and the Elizabeth line wouldn't be included. But the RMT union is convinced that if that happens, there's no way it can happen without there being job cuts. But of course, they also add that if that happens, the experience for passengers will also get much, much worse.
The public and the travellers will find that they've got a less secure network, that it becomes a more dangerous environment for antisocial behaviour, drug dealing, violence, for people that feel vulnerable when they travel and people with accessibility issues. There's no guarantee that there'll be anyone there to assist any passenger on the network.
The government and the rail companies have a very different vision for the future. They say that these people who work in the ticket offices essentially
Yes, Duncan, it was revealed that less than a month ago, Dele Alli was in America seeking help at a rehab centre for an addiction to sleeping tablets, which he says helps footballers go through their gruelling schedule. But during that time in America, he was able to come to terms with a tragic childhood when he spoke to Gary Neville, another former footballer. This is what he had to say.
6, I was molested by my mum's friend who was at the house a lot. So my mum was an alcoholic, and then...
So painful, as you can see there. What does Dele hope will come from this interview?
The reason Dele's speaking out today, he says that he wants to inspire others to seek help for those traumas that they've been through themselves. So he's asking people to follow his direction. He doesn't want any sympathy, but he's lived a life that's been quite troubled. From being sent to Africa when he was a child, he revealed that he'd been attacked whilst he was in Milton Keynes. There's so many different things during that 45 minutes interview that he was able to reveal to Gary. But we spoke to a sports psychologist who has said that it's inspiring that Dele's speaking out now.
When somebody at that height falls, you know, suddenly hero's gone and kids question themselves. But that's why he's done so much good today, or whenever he did the interview this week, and saying, look, this is my problem, I'm facing it, I'm coming back. And he will save lives through his bravery.
And of course, that must be his goal, is to help so many others. Some people would already know he had a fractured relationship with his family. When he was at Tottenham Hotspurs, he began his career with having Ali on the back, but eventually he moved to just Dele. That's because he was adopted when he was 12 years old by a teammate's family. But during going to counselling, he's been able to understand what his mother was going through and understand himself as someone who's been in the press a lot for negative reasons. He was able to kind of put his own words forward during that conversation with Gary.
Yeah, very much so. Antoine, thank you so much. And if you've been affected by any of the details we've just been talking about, you can head to our website for help and advice. Just visit itv.com/London. Now, anyone facing the difficult task of finding a new mortgage won't need reminding how expensive life has become. Rate rise after rate rise has piled huge pressure on household budgets, and figures reveal the number of people who can't afford the payments is going up too. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has been taking a look.
Like many Londoners, Abigail's hopes of owning a home have been hit by the brutal reality of interest rates. She and her husband Mark were expecting their first baby, Ella, and about to buy their first house. But the builders were behind schedule and their mortgage rate expired before the new house was ready. And when it was, they couldn't afford the higher monthly payments.
I had, I think, numerous panic attacks. I was kind of distraught, actually. And I don't have family in this country, so I was feeling very alone and very, very upset. Very upset. I was crying all the time.
Higher property prices in London and the home counties mean people here are among the hardest hit by rising interest rates. It's not just aspiring homeowners whose dreams are being shattered. Hundreds of thousands of people already on the property ladder now face the nightmare of their fixed rate mortgages coming to an end.
I think when these fixed rates ends, it's sort of, where are you when the music stops? Holding the parcel. If you're holding the parcel when rates are particularly high, you're going to get clobbered. I think a lot of people are keeping their fingers crossed that when they come to renew, rates may have settled and certainly maybe even going in the other direction.
Looking across the market, we can get you the lowest possible rate is actually going to be a 10-year fixed product.
Shelley is a mortgage broker working from her home at Hockley in Essex. Many of her clients are extremely worried that their low fixed-rate mortgage will soon need renewing.
It's a constant throughput of people on a daily basis now that are coming with quite high levels of anxiety, and we're really just trying to manage that for people and work through their options and really look at how we tighten our belts and make things work for them ongoing.
I'm not going to cut the additional rate of tax today, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to abolish it altogether.
It's 10 months since Kwasi Kwarteng's tax-cutting mini-budget panicked the market and sparked a rise in interest rates. Who do you blame?
I think I blame the current government, I would say. If that hadn't happened, I think we'd be in a different position. We'd be living in our newly purchased property.
Instead, Abigail, her husband and baby Ella are living in a rented house, unsure about when they'll be able to afford their own home. There was a time when the Conservatives styled themselves the party of the homeowner. But after successive increases in interest rates, is that still the case? And will mortgages be a deciding factor in the next election? Those are just two of the questions we'll be asking in the late debate tonight. I'm joined in the studio by Labour MP Rushnara Ali, David Simmons for the Conservatives and Liberal Democrat peer Susan Kramer. We'll also look ahead to next week's by-election in Uxbridge and South Ruislip, where Labour is hoping to take the seat formerly held by Boris Johnson and where the Tories are playing the ULEZ card. Plus, Thames Water is drowning in debt and it looks as if we'll all end up paying higher bills. That's the late debate here on ITV after News at 10.
A packed programme, Simon. Thank you very much. A survey has confirmed just how popular football's becoming with teenage girls. Nearly half said they're watching the sport more than ever before. It comes after a government review suggested with the right reforms, women's football could become a £1 billion industry. Rags Martel has been speaking to some of London's football stars of the future.
Guys, who wants to play football today?
They're players.
Girls like us are the new era of football.
But can't always play.
You want to play football and people will kind of look at you or discourage you from playing it. Especially in PE, they're like, oh, girls don't really play. That's not a girls' sport.
At King's Cross this morning, female footballers making a stand, showing the obstacles and barriers they face in the game.
Just like stereotype that women don't play football, like women can't play sports, women don't like sports.
And all they're asking for is equality.
When you get on the pitch, you're playing with boys, you're always going to be the last to be picked to be on the team, because that's just how it goes. Boys have that opinion where they're all better than you.
But this isn't just a grassroots problem. With the World Cup just a week away, there are inequalities at every level in the women's game.
People talk to us about bin bags for curtains, no heating, which means they're in like multiple layers having meetings, or can't use certain facilities because the men are a priority and have to wait till silly o'clock at night or at a silly time in the day to go and use facilities.
Former Lioness Karen Carney wants to raise the bar, making a number of recommendations in her report to the government, calling for the top two tiers to go fully professional, to direct some funding from the men's FA Cup prize pot and have a dedicated broadcast slot, possibly on Saturdays at 3 p.m.
I do think we should see women's football as a start-up business that needs an injection of cash, that I do think there will be really big rewards at the end of it. I do think in the next decade it will be £1 billion industry.
For the charity Football Beyond Borders, they're still waiting for school sports to be equal for boys and girls.
Because traditionally girls have been marginalised from football, marginalised from sport. They need different solutions, and for us we are underfunded by the government currently.
The Lionesses celebrated victory last summer, but what they haven't won yet is to be treated the same as men. Rags Martel, ITV News.
Let's have a look to the evening news now. Here's Charlene.
After months of walkouts, millions of public sector workers are getting a pay rise. As junior doctors begin their longest ever strike, the government announces a new pay offer for teachers, police and some NHS staff. But is it enough to stop more walkouts? Also, Kevin Spacey begins his defence against sexual assault charges. How the climate crisis could change our summer holidays as European temperature records look set to tumble. And commemorating the Coronation, the palace puts its pomp and pageantry on display. So join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
Well, we can bring you that first, because as Buckingham Palace reopens to the public this summer, history of the more recent kind, royal fans will be able to get a close-up look at the outfits worn by King Charles and Queen Camilla at the Coronation as they go on display. Here's Helen Keenan with a sneak peek.
Britain's first coronation for 70 years is at the heart of a new exhibition. The outfits worn by King Charles III and Queen Camilla are taking centre stage as part of the summer opening of the staterooms.
I think people will really enjoy seeing the works of art in reality. Of course, the complexity of the coronation service and the distance that the cameras were from the event itself down right by the altar in Westminster Abbey means that you couldn't see the details, and I think people will really enjoy getting up close to some of these items.
Displayed in the palace ballroom, the outfits can be seen up close, even down to the tiny details. Stitched into Queen Camilla's dress, images of her two rescue dogs, Beth and Bluebell. Also embroidered into it are the names of her children and grandchildren. Gus is one of them. Alongside the tunic, dresses and robes they wore is the Diamond Jubilee state coach they rode in on. Visitor arrivals to Britain's occupied palaces are down 50% since COVID, but after such an historic royal year, international tourists are coming back.
International tourists are very much back. I think you and I can probably sense that in the streets of London as well. And we're hoping that they will also be coming to the palace as well this summer.
What is not on display here are the crown jewels. They're staying in the Tower of London. But it is a chance to see another piece of history. 30 years since the late Queen first opened its doors for the public to visit the staterooms at the historic palace. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
On to the weather now. Here's Philippa Drew.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello there. Well, it's been a day of sunny spells and just a few showers, and actually unsettled conditions are set to continue for a little while longer. Over the coming days, we could have some heavy and perhaps at times thundery downpours, and we will have some fairly windy conditions from time to time as well. And it's all down to low pressure, very much in charge of our weather as we head through the next few days. And it's this area of low pressure out towards the west and moving its way northwards that we've got our eye on. By the time we get to Saturday, you can see the isobars are really squeezing together, and we could be in line for an unseasonably windy day. But out there at the moment, things looking relatively quiet. Today's showers have now just about faded. Overnight tonight, though, we will start to pull in more cloud from the southwest, and by dawn, perhaps 1 or 2 spots of very light rain or drizzle. It will be quite a mild night as well. Temperatures probably hovering in the mid-teens for many. So tomorrow morning, quite cloudy from the word go, and it won't be long at all before outbreaks of rain becoming a little more persistent, perhaps locally heavy, and they will spread their way northeastwards across all parts. And that rain just keeps coming as we head into the afternoon. So temperature-wise, well, actually not too far down on today, but I think feeling a lot fresher under the cloud and rain, if still a little on the muggy side, and the breeze tending to pick up as the rain comes through as well. But it's overnight into Saturday where the winds really start to strengthen. That low pressure really starting to wind up out towards the northwest there. The isobars squeezing together. Windy enough, in fact, that the Met Office have a yellow warning coming into force on Saturday morning. Beyond that, it remains very unsettled, very much a mixture of sunny spells and showers. Some of the showers heavy and thundery in nature, and feeling cool in the brisk southwesterly breeze. Bye-bye.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
And that is it from us. The ITV Evening News is next with Charlene. But for now, from all of us on the London team, have a lovely evening. Goodbye.